2024. Bill so contested it could not simply be passed. So Parliament did something you will never see on the evening news. It did not vote. It sent the bill into a small room, handful of members, 6 months of hearings, line by line away from the cameras. This is where laws are really made. Not on the floor you see, but in the committees you do not. Here is the uncomfortable part. A generation ago, 7 in 10 bills went into those rooms for scrutiny. Today, fewer than 2 in 10. Parliament built itself a quality control system. Then it started switching it off. Chapter 24. Parliamentary committees. Last chapter ended on a promise that the real work of Parliament happens somewhere else. This is that somewhere. Think about what we ask of Parliament. Hundreds of bills, budget of trillions, every ministry, every scheme, every rupee. It is too large a body to study all of it. It does not have the time. It does not have the expertise. So it does what any overworked institution does. It delegates. It breaks itself into smaller groups, committees, and hands them the detail no full house could ever read. The chamber debates. The committee examines. But not every group of members is a parliamentary committee. There is a precise test. 4 conditions. It must be appointed or elected by the House or named by the presiding officer. It must work under that officer's direction. It must report back to the House or to the chair. It must be served by the Secretariat of Parliament itself. The Constitution barely describes them. It mentions committees here and there but leaves the rules to the 2 houses. So almost everything about them lives not in the Constitution but in the rule books of the chambers. They come in 2 great families. The standing committees, permanent, rebuilt every year, working without pause. The ad hoc committee is temporary, born for a single task, dissolved the moment it is done. Over the next few minutes, we open 4 doors. Why these rooms exist? How they guard the public money? The mini parliaments that shadow every ministry. The rooms where the biggest bills go and a scrutiny that is quietly vanishing. Start where the power bites hardest. Follow the money. Part 2 coming up. If you want to understand power, follow the money. In Parliament, 3 committees do nothing else. They are the oldest, the sharpest, and the most feared by any government. The first was born in 1921 before independence itself. The Public Accounts Committee, 22 members. 15 from the House of the People, 7 from the Council of States. Its job is to ask one question after the fact: was the public money spent the way Parliament said it could be? It does not act alone. It has a partner, the Comptroller and Auditor General, the nation's auditor, whose reports are the committee's hunting ground. The auditor finds the irregularity. The committee drags the officials in to explain it. Here is the detail that makes it extraordinary. By a convention held since 1967, the chair of this committee is handed to the opposition. Today it sits with the leader of the largest opposition party. The government's own spending examined by the government's rivals. But notice what it cannot do. It arrives after the money is gone. It can expose waste, but it cannot undo it, and it cannot question policy itself. A post-mortem. Powerful, but a post-mortem. The second committee asks the opposite question, not after but before. The Estimates Committee, the largest committee in all of Parliament, 30 members, and every single one of them from the House of the People. Not one from the upper house. Its task is to comb through the government's spending estimates and ask, could this be done for less? Could this be done better? It has been called a continuous committee on economy, suggesting savings ministry by ministry all year round. Where the Public Accounts Committee is the auditor of the past, the Estimates Committee is the conscience of the future. The third was built for a new kind of giant. As the state began running steel plants, airlines, banks, vast public undertakings, a single committee was created in 1964 to keep watch over them. The Committee on Public Undertakings, 22 members again, 15 and 7, examining whether these public giants are run on sound business lines or quietly bleeding the treasury. 3 committees: the auditor, the economist, the watchdog of the public sector. Together, the financial conscience of Parliament. But the money is only one ministry's worth of detail. What about all the others? Defense, health, education, every department of the state. For that, Parliament built something far larger. 24 miniature parliaments. Part 3 coming up. The financial committees watch the money. But who watches the work? Every ministry, every bill, all year long. In 1993, Parliament answered that with its boldest reform in decades. It created a permanent ring of committees, one shadowing each cluster of ministries. They began as 17. Today there are 24. Each one is a parliament in miniature. 31 members, 21 drawn from the House of the People, 10 from the Council of States. Together the 24 cover the entire government. 16 of them answer to the lower house, 8 to the upper. Here is what they do that the open chamber cannot. When a bill is referred to them, they take it apart, clause by clause. They call in officials. They summon experts. They hear ordinary citizens. They do it away from the cameras where a member can change her mind without losing face. No party theatre. No headlines. Just the slow, unglamorous work of reading a law before the nation has to live under it. That is why they are called the engine room of Parliament. They are rebuilt every year, but the work never stops. The standing committees are not only these, they spread into 6 great families and each does a different kind of guarding. There are the ones that inquire, the Committee on Petitions which hears the citizens' grievance, the Committee of Privileges which defends the dignity of the House, the Ethics Committee which polices the conduct of members themselves. There are the ones that scrutinize and control. One checks whether ministers keep the promises they make on the floor, the Committee on Government Assurances. Another watches the rules the bureaucracy quietly writes on subordinate legislation. Others guard the interests of the scheduled castes and tribes and the empowerment of women. There are the quiet ones that simply keep the house running, arranging its business, managing its rules, even running its library. Most you will never hear of, but together they are the connective tissue that lets a vast institution actually function. Notice the pattern across all of them. The committee is where the detail lives, where the expertise lives, where often the parties stop fighting long enough to actually read. The chamber performs. The committee works. So far every room has been permanent. But the most dramatic committees are the ones built for a single fight and then dissolved. One kind of committee is not a parliamentary committee at all. Part 4 coming up. Some committees are built to last. Others are built for a single storm and vanish when it passes. These are the ad hoc committees. One type of them makes headlines like no other. When a bill is too large, too contested, too important to trust to the usual process, both houses can pool their members into one body, a joint parliamentary committee. Remember the bill from the cold open? In 2024, the contested law on Waqf properties was handed to exactly such a committee. It toured the country, took evidence for 6 months, fought over every clause and delivered its report in early 2025. The ruling side and the opposition recording their disagreement in writing for the record. The same year, the most ambitious idea in Indian politics, holding all the nation's elections at once, one nation, one election, was not pushed through. It was sent to a joint committee of 39 members to be studied before the country commits. When the stakes are highest, Parliament does not rush. It refers. That is the committee at its best. But beware one imposter. There is a body that looks like a committee, sounds like a committee and is full of members of parliament and yet is not a parliamentary committee at all. The consultative committees attached to each ministry, a forum for members to discuss policy with the minister. But they are chaired by the minister himself and run by the government's own Department of Parliamentary Affairs, not by the House. That fails the test. Parliamentary committee answers to the House. A consultative committee answers to the minister. One holds power to account, the other simply talks to it. The difference is the whole point of this chapter. So, how much power do these committees really have? Here is the honest answer. Their findings are recommendations. The government can read them, thank them, and ignore them. They cannot make law. They cannot force a minister's hand. Their strength is sunlight, not the sword. There is a deeper worry. For all their value, they are being used less and less. A generation ago, most major bills were sent to a committee before becoming law, more than 7 in 10. In the most recent full parliament, that fell to roughly 1 in 6. Well over half of all bills were passed in the very same session they were introduced. No committee, barely a debate. The scrutiny machine still exists. It is simply being switched on less often. A law that no one truly examined is a law the whole country must still obey. So this is the quiet truth of Parliament. The grand chamber, the shouting, the votes you see on television, that is the performance. The real work is elsewhere, in the financial committees that guard the public rupee, in the 24 mini parliaments that read what no full house can, in the joint committees that take on the biggest fights of the age. The part of Parliament that actually works is the part you never see. Defend it or lose the scrutiny that keeps power honest. We have walked the institution, who makes the law, who runs it, and who scrutinizes it. Next, we step outside the chambers to a forum that links India's lawmakers to the wider parliamentary world. Chapter 25, the Indian Parliamentary Group. Coming up,